Hi, and welcome to the Plot Twist podcast. My name is Catherine. I am coming to you from Berlin, Germany, which is where I grew up and where I now live with my husband and our 3 kids for now, but more on the move later towards the end of the episode. This is a slow fashion podcast focusing primarily and today I think exclusively on knitting. Thank you so much for tuning in once more, for coming by, checking out this podcast, maybe for the first time, in which case, welcome. Or coming back, in which case, thank you so much for deciding to come back and hang with me for a moment. As I chat away about my life and my thoughts and my knits and my makes and my men's usually, but today I don't have any. I know. So as we are sort of in the middle of our move in terms of how close it is, in 2 months we will have moved to a different city. At the same time, it doesn't look in our apartment as though we're in the middle of a move. But now I'm talking about it. I wanted to talk about this at the end of the episode. But since that is the case, also my knitting game has been a little bit all over the place over the last week because I was very, very nervous. Because when you buy a house, you sit around for the most time and then you need to do something and it needs to be done ASAP and in a very, you have a short time window. And I was and still am, but especially over the last days, I was so incredibly nervous that my knitting was really in some moments pushed to the back burner and then again, pulled out, and I clung to it. I held on for dear life because I needed to calm my nerves. So it's been a very, it's been a ride over those last few days. So maybe that shows in my knitting. For me, at any rate, it does. Just so you know roughly what to expect as I go through my works in progress. Before I do that, I want to say that you can find all the information to all the projects that I'm going to talk about, the ones in progress and the finished ones, down in the description box just below this video. And that will take you to the links to my Ravelry pages or to other podcasters or whatever it is that I mention here, or to patterns and so on. So whatever it is that you are looking for in reference to this video, please check down below. You might find it there. Okay, now let me take a sip and I'm gonna get started. Okay, here comes the first and the one and only finished object today. Yes, I needed to think about that for a second, but I can confirm this is my one finished object, but it's a big one. And I am already nesting in our new home, which explains this project. So these are rain boot socks for my middle son. So I have 3 children and my middle child happens to be the first to receive those socks just because they wanted to become his. I just felt it as I knit them. So I'm going to show you them up close and individually and then together because they're a little bit wonky and have funny proportions. That's what I was looking for. See? And here goes the other one. So these are not blocked or anything, just off my needles. Aren't they so fun? And here they're together. Aren't they so cute? I mean, look at the tiny foot and the super long leg. I mean, so cute. So the idea was that as we're moving out of our apartment in the city and then into our house that is in the countryside and has a very big garden, my kids are, especially now with fall being just around the corner for us, actually I want to say that yesterday feels like it was the first fall day, and I could not be happier about it. Oh, it's the transition from summer to fall is just the perfect time of the year for me. It could not get any better. So as with that in mind and with that prospect, I know that the kids are going to be out and about all the time, and that's the entire idea, that they are able to, head into the garden whenever they want and just run around in every kind of weather. And as with our property and with the weather, because we're moving up north, and with everything considered, they just will most likely be in their rain boots for a few weeks at a time. And rain boots are such a cool thing, but they tend to be kind of cold. And I thought, okay, perfect. So now I get to knit them a pair of socks each. So for each one of those kids, those super long legs and those tiny feet. They're not so tiny. I mean, it looks small as compared to the leg, but the foot isn't actually that small. I'm going to talk about that in a bit. And then I started, because I thought there is a way that I can prepare for the weeks to come, even if now we have to sit around and wait forever, but or for what seems like forever. But okay, that's what I can do, and that's going to be helpful, and they will need those. I've said that before, but I'm just gonna quickly reiterate. I have knit my kids' socks before, but it doesn't make any sense. I understood, because if we have wooden floors and they're just gonna fall, and they're all three of them their little bodies are so warm that they will not wear woolen socks with their house shoes over them, which would prevent them from falling. So, and it's going to be the same thing in our new house. So that is really the only sort of sock that they can safely wear, and that makes sense. And when that gets wet, because my kids' socks and rain boots tend to very often get wet, not always, but remarkably often, that when those get wet, they don't get as cold as cotton socks, but they keep the foot a little bit warmer, even if this is not non-superwash. So that would be perfect for that purpose, but it's still much better than cotton. So this is all commercial sock yarn, all sorts of scraps that I found that for the most part, I cannot tell you what they are, because many of them are also scraps I just got without any tag whatsoever from my mother-in-law. And some of those I can tell you, like with these stripes up here, these ones, they are Regia Perfect, Anne and Carlos. They're what to me is their Christmas colorway, but I cannot tell you now what. Oh, I can. I think I still have the ball band. Yes, it's organization is everything, my friends. So that's this skein. Maybe you'll recognize it because it's a very well known colorway. So many people have knit it in the past. So maybe you've seen that one around. It's number, oh goodness, where is this? Color 03656. So 3656. That's the color. I've knit socks with this yarn before, and I really love that yarn. But I think the tags for all of the other yarns aren't there. Yeah, that's right. So what I did is I cast on 60 stitches. And went for I think 14 rounds of a 2x2 rib for the cuff. And the tip and the cuff are, well, what is it called? Langyarns Jawohl. So that's a commercial German sock yarn. Just scraps that I had. And then I added in 10, so I kept the ribbing going, but I switched to a 3x1 rib. So 3 knit, 1 purl. And then in that way I went, so that's the pattern for my entire sock. And then I added in 10 rounds in that 3x1 pattern in whatever scrap yarn I fancied, and then 5 rounds in this green color that doesn't pop out really, but at the same time sort of ties those colors together. So, well, it just worked out, I think. That is a Fircolana Avetta color, whichever one, but that's also one of those commercial sock. Yeah, so that's Fircolana, the other is Lang. And then I just went through my scraps. So those 2 stripes are the same scraps, and then these 2 are the same. This is the first one again. So, and there's another that belonged to those 2nd, 4th, and however many that is. So, you know, I just went for a super scrappy sock and just grabbed whatever I thought felt right next. So there is no rhyme or reason behind it. I just grabbed whatever I thought that might be fun now. And I think so this and this might be the Arne and Carlos. And this, the heel, so I just did a heel flap and gusset as per usual. I think I just grabbed this ball of green stripy yarn and just knit the heel and the first set of 10 rows, you know, in that yarn. And then I had him try it on, and when I was finished with that last stripe here before the toes, I had to immediately end the sock, because otherwise if I had added another green stripe, it would have gotten way too long. So, and since I've also gone right into the scrappy colors here from the cuff, it kind of matches that this is also what happens without the transition of the green stripe, but I would have put it in if he needed this extra centimeter. What I did though before I started the foot is I somehow decreased down to, well, I want to say 56 stitches so that the heel flap isn't as wide. Yeah, I think I decreased 4 over the course of 2 rounds or whatever. So decreasing 2 at either side. Somehow that's what I did. Honestly, I don't even remember really. So because I don't have to recreate the sock, and I knit them 2 at a time, in the sense that I cast on different needles, on 2 sets of needles, and I'm going to show you with the second pair that I have on my needles now for my other son. But I cast on the cuff on the one, knit it, then knit the other cuff, which is good because I don't like knitting cuffs. So I had those out of the way. And then I decided to add in the individual scraps and could match them. So I could use up those yarn scraps and have the socks look not alike, but like have that same vibe to them, because this is all self-striping and self-patterning yarn, the scrappy yarn, I mean. So you can still see that it's sort of the same recipe or the same ingredients in there, you know, because they don't look like 2 totally different socks, even if they definitely don't look exactly alike. I hope that makes sense what I'm saying. I hope you can understand what I mean. So at the same time, I also did that with the heels. I added those in one and then the next, just right one after the other. So I remembered then what it was that I did. I knew exactly what I had to do. So if you can hear those voices, they come from my neighbors. This wall, it's so funny. This wall is so thin. I'm surprised I cannot, just push it and then walk into the next room. Oh my God. Okay, I hope this is not bothersome that we hear them talking. They're very nice though. Anyway, so yeah, these are my rain boot socks that I knit for my middle son. I knit them on a 2.25 millimeter needle, which is a US size 1. And yeah, and I went for 60 and then for 56 stitches to account for the fact that the legs have a slightly bigger circumference than the feet. And also I didn't want to make them too snug because I want for those to fit for as long as possible. And if the foot should get too small, like if his feet grow and these need to be longer, I can, and this is what my grandmother always did, I can just take out the tip, I can just rip back this part and then add a little bit on and reknit the tip of the sock, unless they're totally felted. But also then, you could insert your needle, cut off the rest, and reknit, because why wouldn't you? And that way you can save the entire sock and don't have to reknit it, and then you don't know what to do with that one. So that's what my grandmother always did. She would rip back whenever I'd outgrown a sock and then just reknit the tip and make it a centimeter or two longer, whatever was needed. So that's my colorful finished object for this week. And I, of course, cast on immediately. Also, my other son really kind of demanded it, the next pair. And that was fun because I got to take out more yarns and put together a different palette, if you want to, if that isn't too big a word, but I don't think it is. And since finally, after knitting many socks with those green scraps, so if you've been here for a minute, then you will have seen these different green scrap yarns, Lang and Avetta, pop up in different projects, in different sock projects, and will have heard me talking about using up those scraps quite a bit. So I'm there now that these are almost gone. And so I had to change the course of action a little bit in terms of color for the next pair, but that's good because that keeps it interesting, and also the kids can definitely distinguish which sock belongs to whom, and there is not going to be a fight over it. There's not going to be an entire mess, because you have to anticipate everything that they can potentially quarrel over, because it's going to happen. So this is how far I am with the second pair. And you can tell that this one isn't quite there yet. I have just started a few days ago. So this is what I mean by 2 at a time socks. Each one has their needle, they're identical. So both are ChiaoGoo red lace. The cord is a different length. The shorter one is the one that I like better, but otherwise they're identical. Again, 2.25 millimeter needles, so US size 1. And for this, I cast on, I don't want to lie, I think 64, because it's for my oldest son. He's 8 now, and his calves are a little bit bigger and his legs are longer. Obviously. My other son is 5, so of course there's a difference there. And I try to account for that by casting on 4 stitches more for the part that reaches up to his knee. And then as I will have knit the leg up until here or something, I will decrease down to 60 so that around the ankle it will be a bit snugger around the foot. And then I think I'm going to go down to 56 for the foot proper, like I did with the others. So I said I don't have to recreate, but here I go saying I'm gonna have to recreate that. But it isn't. I'm just gonna decrease on either side, so halfway around the foot, and that's going to be fine. So I cast on 64 with the 2.25, but with a tubular cast on. So I'm gonna show you. Hold on. I'm gonna try and hide the floats so that you can see something. Not the floats, but the ends. So I cast on with the tubular cast on. So hopefully you could see how it looks relatively seamless. So this is the tubular cast on that always sounds hard and complicated. It is not. And I am going to be quite honest, I don't do the setup rows. I just do this little cast on thingy where you just twist, and then I'm just going to start knitting in the round. So I cast on half the stitches, twist them to the end of the needle so that they stay in place. Of course, you have to be careful because it's a very frail construct. then I cast on with the other needle, like for a magic loop, the other set of stitches, so the other half of the sock, and then I will pull this one out of the first set of stitches very carefully so as to not twist them all together, because then you can never put it back together, or I can't, and then just I start knitting in the round, and this is what I've always done. It's always worked for me. Yes, it's a tiny bit fiddly, but not as fiddly as you may think, and it is totally worth the 2 minutes extra, because you get such a stretchy cuff that all of us in our family have super high arches on our feet, which is why I cannot work with a Fish Lips Kiss heel or something like that, because it doesn't give me enough room. I mean, I could put it on my foot, but it doesn't. It's not the right fit, right? And my kids, and especially my husband too, they all have that. And we all have very high arches. So it is important that here there's a lot of stretch there, because this part has to go over the entire foot, right? And there isn't anything I dislike more in a hand knit sock than a cuff that doesn't have give, that is the snuggest part of the foot. So, which is why I love the tubular cast on. Then again, it only gives me a 1x1 rib, which I don't like because it's a bit floppy. In this case, I don't think it's going to matter, because this is going to be on the part of the leg that is the stretchiest, not the stretchiest, but the widest. My sons and their stretchy legs. No, that is the widest, and so it's going to stay, right? And again, I went straight into the first scrap yarn, and then for the contrasting color here, I went for a gray. See, I went for a gray, and I don't know, I think I've used all of this up already, because that was a scrap from a different sock project that I really just had like 4 or 5 grams left. So I used those up for the first contrasting stripe up here, or contrast or main color, whatever. So the smaller stripes. And then for the rest, I'm going to use this gray, which again, no tag, but just this gray color that is certainly going to last. There's going to be leftover to knit those gray stripes with. And I thought this is a close enough match, and I wanted to get rid of this little scrap, so as to clear off some of my stuff. I put a marker here just so, because when I was knitting, where was I knitting this? Oh, I think in the car. That must have been in the car. So for some reason, the light wasn't as good, so that I couldn't really tell the difference in color. So after the first round of the next stripe, I put in this light bulb stitch marker. See, to mark where I'd left off. So the last round of the thinner stripe, because otherwise I wouldn't have been able to count the rows. And once I've reached 10, which I think I have, I cut the yarn, and then it's back to gray. But first I'm gonna finish this one with that same color. And it gives me a tremendous amount of pleasure working through my scraps, through my leftover sock yarn. Like when I have a small ball of sock yarn, such as this, or this is not even that small. Or like my Arna and Carlos, and this little very fluffy thing, so that is going to be gone soon. And then you use them up, and there is no leftover of the leftover, That is such a satisfying feeling. I really enjoy that. Very much. So those projects are exactly what I need now, in terms of I have the feeling that I can work through my stash. I can knit something for the house, for my kids, provide for future us in a few months. I can focus on something that I can do that is productive in terms of, for the move. and it gives me something to do with my hands that is mindless enough so that it's just go, go, go. I don't need to think about this for 1 minute because I've knit so many socks in my life. This is, you can wake me up in the middle of the night and I know exactly where I am, and I can knit this with my eyes closed, so that's perfect. That is just the right thing, and I enjoy those tremendously. They live in this little tiny bag, and that I got at a, not grocery store, but at a drugstore. So yeah, there's nothing interesting to say about that except it's perfect for that project, and that project is so much fun. And oh yes, on the socks that are already finished, I've woven in the ends of one sock almost entirely, and the other is yet to be, the other sock, the ends on the other sock are yet to be woven in. And yeah, I do that, you know, whenever I feel like it in the evening, and I decide to take, you know, either a certain amount of time, like I'm gonna do this for 45 minutes, or just sit there and say, I'm gonna finish the sock now, so I have it off my back. I don't mind weaving in the ends, but I like to do it when I'm in the mood for it, you know, so there's no rush. So technically they're not finished, but that's okay. So they're off the needles, and the rest is just a little evening project for me to have them ready, make them ready, get them ready for their soak. Okay, the other project, sadly, I could not finish yet because of another project that I'm going to show you in a bit, that sort of stole my attention for the last 2 days. And that is, yes, mid-row. That is my half and half triangles wrap, the mini version that I'm knitting out of Rama Finul and Rama Finul leftovers from my big version, as a bit of decoration for the new house. See, so that's where we are. Maybe you remember the story of that yarn. I bought the yellow and this, let's see, and this dark green. I hope you can see that this is a dark green, a very blue green. I hope you can see that this is a green. Well, I bought the yellow and the green, especially, so this one and this yellow, obviously, for this piece. You know, envisioning a half and half triangles wrap in a mini version as a piece of decoration, so that I can put it on the wooden table and like put a vase on it, or, you know, or like candles or whatever. And that didn't quite work because I went back. I'm going to give you the short version of the story because I told it last time. I went back to the project page for my big half and half triangles wrap, and kind of did the math, because I wrote down how many grams I used for the individual stripes, because I striped my shawl. And then I did the math from there and figured I can cast on whatever it was now. I think 110 stitches. It's on my project page though. I think it was 110 stitches, and get one triangle out of one ball of Rama Finul. So I thought, perfect, that's what I'm going to do. I left a little margin, I thought, so that I wouldn't run out of yarn. And I mean, haha, that's what happened. I ran out of yarn at about here. And so I did not want to go and buy another skein and only use a little bit of it and then have even more leftovers after this project. So I thought, okay, so like I said, Stephen West's Color Opportunity, I'm just going to grab whatever color of this very yarn, because I have so many leftovers, that I think is a cool match. And I went for this teal color because I like how this teal and the green, how they tie in together, even if they're not right next to each other. So I thought this was fun, both this color combination and then the sort of green and green that's going on here, but also it's a blue and blue, right? I love those colors that are both green and blue. And then I wanted to put in this extra, no, this is not a Rama Funeral, this is Jameson & Smith 2-ply jumper weight. This little red color or purpley red color, whatever. And then I went for the big skein that I bought, and this is also the color in which I knit up and down through the center. Even if for some reason I knit up and down for 2 rows instead of 3, I don't know how that happened, but it wouldn't have worked out with 3, so I don't know, but it works like this. I wouldn't have noticed, you know, looking at this thing, but in the pattern, I mean, it should have worked out differently, and it did with my big version, so I don't know what happened there, but also it doesn't matter. And this is a Rama Funeral color 4025, and I got this thinking, oh, this is a stunning color and this is going to look so fun with the yellow. And I was so all excited. And then once I got to knitting with it, I mean, after 2 rows, my hands are pretty tinged. Is that how you say it? So they really get, this color bleeds on your hands immediately. Like, you can really see where the thread goes. Like I'll keep it over my finger like this, and you can really trace it with the color. And my fingertips are going to be all sort of dark green, right? And also parts of my palms are going to be really covered in that color. And that makes me a little nervous when it comes to blocking with respect to, is this going to bleed into all the other colors, especially the yellow? Then again, I realized as I, knit with it, I thought, oh, this really, the color really comes off. This is really so saturated. And then I remembered, which otherwise I wouldn't have remembered, but I remembered that I included this color in my original half and half triangles wrap, the big one, the striped one where one triangle is all striped. And I thought the same thing. This color is so beautiful and so rich, and it's very dark but not black, so it's such a perfect color, but you have it all over your hands, and I only remembered now as I rebought it and knit with it. Isn't that weird? So the funny thing then is that I figured out I do have leftover yarn from this very color from my bigger half and half triangles wrap. So it's not a huge amount, but it's maybe as much as like this. So maybe, I don't know, these are 50 gram balls. So what is it, like 12, 13 grams or something I have left over. And I thought, okay, I would have had enough for an entire triangle. Anyway, it does not matter. I love it anyways. So this is what I have so far, and it's going to be fun. And I really like that the yellow is going to stand out so much. I mean, now on camera, it looks as though this was really very muted and really so much the same tone. But I don't think in real life that is what happens. Also, it's okay if the 2 triangles have its sort of different thing going on. That's the fun thing about that pattern. And also, I mean, it's a scrappy project. It's a nesting project. It is something to soothe my nerves. And that's what it's there for. So this is my half and half triangles wrap mini version number 2, because I've knit another one that was even smaller where it was the opposite thing. I could have made it much larger, but I didn't want to cast on too many stitches so as to run out of the yarn, because with that particular yarn, it would have been so very hard to find a sort of a replacement and continue knitting it. And also I couldn't have bought more. So, because that's a yarn that I bought at a market here. It's produced very locally, but it isn't produced in those amounts that you can reorder. So, well, that was the opposite happened. I cast on too few stitches and then ran out, and now I have leftovers from that project. But, well, anyways, I'm very happy about this project nonetheless. And I'm knitting those on a 3.5 millimeter needle, which translates into a US size 4. Yeah, and that's that. It looks pretty see-through when I hold it up, but that makes it so that it's drapey and not too stiff. And also for decorational piece, it really doesn't matter because it doesn't have to be windproof or anything. But also for my shawl, for my big half and half triangle strap that I wear, I use the same gauge, the same needle. I'm a pretty loose knitter, so I didn't used to be, au contraire, but I am now. And I blame it all on the kids. It happens to many people when they have kids that they become such a loose knitter. Isn't that weird? But I like it because that makes it not too heavy and not too dense. So I'm very happy with the fabric, even if now I saw on camera that it looks a little bit see-through. But I mean, it's stitches, right? I mean, it's airy by definition. I'm going to show you another project that is also knit, and that is knit in a very similar yarn. First, I'm going to take a sip. And that also gives me all the fall vibes. And I don't think it's a coincidence that on the first day of fall, I'm just going to call it that because yesterday it was such fall weather, temperatures, a little bit of rain, just the atmosphere, because you can smell it. Like you can smell snow, you can smell fall for sure. And it was just in the air, you know? It just was. And then it's not a coincidence that I pulled out this project. So this is a project that's been in hibernation for a long time. I want to say for about a year, maybe even longer, maybe not quite a year, something in that neighborhood. So for long enough so that I don't remember. And I am talking about my Wool and Honey sweater. I'm going to show you, and then I'm going to explain the entire saga. So, this yarn is Brooklyn Tweed Loft in the plum colorway. Can that be? Take a look-see. I know that somewhere here in my bag there is this tag. Thistle, yeah. Because I also have leftovers of this colorway, Brooklyn Tweed. And I think this is Suit. So then that would make the purple Thistle. If that's how you pronounce that. So, good old Brooklyn Tweed Loft, non-superwash yarn, amazing. So I love this yarn. And let me say, it's not the first time that I got to spend a lot of time with those particular skeins, because I knit out of this yarn, everything that goes into that sweater I had, and I have a little bit left over. I've knit in the past, like as in years ago, 40 years ago, something like that. So before COVID for sure, the Drea Renee Knits pattern. So this is also one of hers. It was called the Yoga Shawl, and then I think she changed it to Everyday Shawl. I'm pretty sure. So that's what I knit all the way to the end. And it's a big thing. But it didn't work out. It wasn't wearable for me. It wasn't didn't have the right dimensions for me. I never wore it. I never even really wove in the ends, or did I? And then I undid it. I don't know what I did, but I ended up taking it all apart because I love the yarn so much. And also it doesn't come cheap. So I thought, no, I'm going to reuse this and do something else with that. And eventually I thought I'm gonna knit the wool and honey. And don't you I adore this honeycomb motif. This year I've decided to become a beekeeper. So now with my bee class that I'm taking, my beekeeping class, I always just say my bee class, but I feel even more drawn to this pattern. And once we have our own property and the right time of year approaches, I do want to keep my own bees. So perfect. But this has been quite a journey. So I cast this on. I'm going to put it on so you can see, and then I can tell you better what I think the issues are with this and why I didn't take it up again. But I need to pay attention so that I don't take out my sleeve. Maybe you can tell what the issue is. This looks super big on me. I knit a size small, believe it or not, which isn't usually a size that I go for, but I figured, okay, this is an oversized sweater. I had my gauge. I looked everything up. Don't ask me about the gauge. I don't know. I would have to check again. But I mean, in the beginning, I made sure that I knew what I was doing and what I was going for. And I happily knit on. I loved knitting this honeycomb passage. It's fun to knit, and yet it isn't super hard. Like, you just have to figure out what to do, and then it's very easy from there. I will say I didn't know how to do those multiple yarn overs until I figured out how you just wrap your yarn around the needle, not once, but twice, or however many times she tells you to. Once I got that, I thought, oh, this is really an easy pattern. It looks very intricate though. And I love how it dissolves and like goes down here, but here it doesn't really. Beautiful. I think it looks a little big around my shoulders though, because it's just very big. I mean, it's not super oversized. So this is me right here. And so that would give me about like maybe 10 centimeters on either side of positive ease. But that's a lot in the end. Don't you measure it up around? Wouldn't you measure the circumference? So then that would not be 20, but 40 centimeters. Or is that wrong? I don't know. But it's not super wide on either side is what I'm saying. But it's not, I don't think it's the right yarn for that fit. It would have had to have been a lighter yarn, or like a drapier yarn, or a bigger gauge so that I would be very flowy and just like fall right down. I mean, this also gives a cool silhouette in the sense that there is structure to that fabric and it tends not to just flop. But now this is so creased because this is how I kept it in my bag, but this will look different in the end. So maybe it's also a cool look if there is a structure to this very boxy, oversized garment. Also, it gives me the opportunity to wear pieces underneath so that this can be an outer layer. That's also cool. But once I had bound off, I realized that this is really gigantic. And I didn't quite realize because I was so lost in the process of knitting, whenever it was that I knit this, and also because it was scrunched up on needles. So that's always kind of danger, knitting things scrunched up on needles like I do. I like that when the fabric is very, when the stitches are so dense on my needles, but you just have to take the needle out and, put it on those on scrap yarn or those cords that you can put in, just to put it on and see whether you like it from like a few centimeters below the armhole or whether it's too boxy. And I didn't do it with that one. And then I figured, okay, I'm gonna just have to rip back until like, I don't know, here or wherever it is that you start doing different things for the size that I would have gone for a size smaller. At the same time, I knew there was only one size smaller than this, even though this turned out so big. So would all the effort really be worth it in the end to have like 3 centimeters less? Maybe not. Then I was worried about the armholes being too big, which now you cannot really say with that, or maybe you can. I mean, so this is where my arm begins and this is where the armhole starts. So there is a bit of a gap there, which I think works in favor of this particular look, that the sleeves are set in at a lower part in your body. I hope that will make this oversized look more intentional. And then those will go straight and then decrease rapidly towards the cuff. That's what I figured. Yeah, I think that's what happens. And yesterday I pulled this out and I thought, okay, so I'm going to do something about that. Either I'm going to finish it and just live with the fact that the sweater is what it is and wear it and be happy with it because it might turn out fine. Or if I'm not happy with it, I'm going to gift it and at some point reinvest in Brooklyn Tweed Loft yarn when I know what to do with it, or when I want to reknit this pattern, because I think the pattern is just flawless. It's beautiful. And I do want to have this sweater in my wardrobe. I do. And now that we're going to have a garden, it will be so cool to just have that piece to throw over and then run into the garden, you know? So it might all work out in my favor and it might all end up like it was meant to be that way. If that makes sense to you. But I decided, so either that's what I'm going to go for, or I'm now going to take this back up to, you know, wherever it is that I need to do something else for a size smaller. And I went with the first option because I thought, no, I just don't want to reknit this yarn for a third time. I don't think it gets better with, you know, reknitting. And like I said, if it's really not what I want, I will give it to someone who will appreciate it and wear it. And that's okay. I'm really okay with giving knits away. That's what I've been doing now in terms of also decluttering. I've been decluttering things just in general, also with my kids and my husband for our move, because you really think twice about, or 5 times about every item that you will have to pack and, you know, pay someone to take wherever it is that you're going, and then unpack and find a space for and get a cupboard for and so on. So I thought, nah, I'm just really going to bring what I really, really, really want to, you know, possess and take care of. And the same goes for my knits. So I went through, and I keep doing that. I went through my knits and I keep going through my knits, as in finished garments and finished accessories. And I gave some things away to friends. Like there are 2 knitted garments that I gave to friends. I gave a hat away just a few days ago to a very happy recipient. And I'm so happy that they get worn because they weren't the right color for me, or they turned out the wrong size, or I knit the Tenya years ago in linen held double, 100% linen held double. So for me, that wasn't an enjoyable process at all. And it turned out way too big for my taste, at least. So it ended up something that I wore during my one pregnancy, but then never again. And I really don't have positive associations with that garment for God knows what reason. I don't know. But I figured I'm not wearing it because of what I said, and also because I don't want to, you know, because it doesn't fit right. It's too long, it's too wide, I didn't enjoy making it. which now I cannot tell you why I didn't just stop. I don't know. I didn't quite enjoy making it as much, and I don't like wearing it. And that's okay, but why would I now hold on to it? I just decided to give it to a friend. And if she were to return it and say, well, I don't wear it either, I can always donate it or give it to someone else, or I'll find someone for that garment and make sure it's in good hands. But I don't fret over giving things away. I mean, I really don't. If I know that the recipient, appreciates them and enjoys them, perfect. Then all the time that I invested is well worth, the time. And with this one, I am now very happy that I've decided on finishing it as it is, keeping it, trying it out, maybe in my new lifestyle, because my lifestyle is going to be very different in the countryside. I might just be knitting the perfect piece. I don't know. I'm just going to go for it, finish it, and finally have this out of my bag. Just as one. I like to use handbags and not project bags. I like project bags and use them, but I also often use handbags. That's what I mean. Like, I will often grab handbags, and that is a bag that the mother of my best friend from school gave me, well, when we were still in school, like when I was 13 or something like that. So ages ago. And that was her, like from her student days. And she said, it's such a good bag. Do you want to have it? And I was like, yeah, okay. And over all of those years, I've kept it, and it's kept its particular smell, like in a good way. And now this sweater has been living in it so long that it really smells of that too, which is a pity that I'm going to have to, wash it eventually. But so that's where that lives. Now I'm going to take that off and tell you a little bit about the needles. Oh man, hold on a second. Now you may hear some banging noises now that the neighbors are not so loud, because they're about to reopen the restaurant downstairs. So if you've heard me talk about the restaurant before, yes, they're still renovating. I'm sorry for the banging. It just started, and I hope it's going to stop soon. Anyway, so I'm knitting this on a 3mm needle. So that is going to be a pretty dense fabric, because the Brooklyn Tweed Loft is the fine yarn that they have. It's, a fingering weight or sport weight. This is going to be a pretty dense and warm fabric. Honestly, I would not have ripped this back because I really want to wear it. Look how amazing it is. I just love that sweater. I think it's so, so beautiful. And honestly, I can't wait to wear it. And I love the color. I love the yarn. I cannot wait to finally wear this yarn, because I've knit it all up and I'm taken it all apart, and then knit it all up again, and then again it was like, oh man, did I make a mistake? And no, I don't want for this to be a mistake. This is going to be good as it is. Maybe not for me, but maybe for me. It's just time will tell, right? So this is what I want to finish, and it looks very long now as I sit here, but isn't super long. And I think the shoulder situation may work itself out when I wear it, and it's got a little bit of weight on the arms too, so that it's not just going to be hanging like in the air, but also gets a little bit of weight that pulls down. So it might not be as baggy and boxy. My smaller needle size is 2.5mm. So yeah, for the body it's 3, and for the rest it's 2.5. I think she uses a much bigger needle, not much, but yeah, bigger, which I don't, but the thing is, I did swatch for it, and yet, well, anyway. But that's my sweater, and now that I took it out of hibernation yesterday, I truly cannot wait for it to be finished, as in finished, and on my body, even if it's not as cold now, so that I could wear it, but I really want to. And I am very determined, and that's good. It's you knit garter stitch, but in the round, so every second round is purl. That makes it a little bit slower, not super slow, but just a bit. And yeah, so it's going to be a few days, but I just want to finish it over the next weeks. I mean, I just want for it to be the next sweater that I bind off, because also with the move, I don't want to schlep around all of my works in progress, because I mean, it doesn't matter if I carry the sweater over to the new house or the work in progress in the bag. My timer just went off because in a bit I'm gonna have to run to my son's school and deliver something that I forgot to put in his bag in the morning. So it's really my fault, but he really needs it. And yeah, I want to, just for the sake of my sanity and my feeling, I just want to have the feeling of I'm in control of some things in my life, you know? So, and I wrap up some projects before moving on to the new home, which is going to be overwhelming. And I don't know, it doesn't really matter, but it somehow matters to me. So I want to finish some things before we move on. I don't have to clear like all of my needles, and that's not going to happen, but and that doesn't bother me. But some things like the sweater, I really want to get those done. And yesterday I also pulled out my weekender because I watched, I'm gonna link that. I watched the latest video of the Caddy Jacks YouTube channel that I think was only Jackie. I keep mixing up who's Caitlin and who's Jacqueline, but I think it was Jackie talking. Anyway, so they apparently have knit so many weekender sweaters, again an Adria Mowry pattern, as I did that would have been 2020. Yes, right, because when COVID started, my local yarn store, no, not just the local yarn store, but I think Brooklyn Tweed in general. Oh my God, the banging. I'm so sorry. I'm gonna wrap this up now. They had a 20% off discount. I don't know if it was worldwide, but so that stores gave you over the months of May, gave you that discount, and then it wouldn't be at the expense of the store, but at the expense of Brooklyn Tweed, because they wanted to encourage people like to knit and stock up on yarn for this period of like lockdown and whatnot. And I thought, okay, perfect. I always knew that the day would come when I would get Brooklyn Tweed shelter. So this episode is obviously brought to you by Brooklyn Tweed. I paid for all of this, for all the patterns and all the yarns and everything. I wanted to buy a sweaters quantity for the weekender. And so I did. And same story. It turned out super big. And I have to tell you, I don't think it's what happened with Wool and Honey. That's a different problem there. But with this sweater, I'm pretty sure that that's what happened. And it's not the first time that's happened to me with non-superwash yarn. I washed non-superwash yarn. I gave it a soak and I laid it flat to dry. I squeezed it out. I did not stretch it. I did not pin it. I did not pull it in shape or pull it to measurements or anything like that, because I never do with garments. And I rinsed it and then I treated it, with absolute respect and care, and it grew. And you say that about non-superwash garments, and they do grow. But I find that you say that about superwash yarns, and they do grow. But I find that when non-superwash yarn grows, it really does grow. Because it's happened to me before with a hat that I knit, and that grew so much so that I didn't know anyone that I could give this to whom this hat would fit. It was grotesquely too big. And I tried it on as I knit it, and I was worried that it was going to be too snug. So that was very weird. And so, but that's well in the past. I've made my peace with that, but I'm still in wonder, And then I knit my weekender, and look at this. I mean, yes, again, it's an oversized sweater, but again, so this is me. And this is the sweater. So technically, it would fit two of me. How is that possible? Yeah, I don't know. I went for this newsprint colorway, and that's That's the line going down right here. I don't know if you can see here. I mean, this has been worn again during my last pregnancy, and because it was so roomy that I could always like just put it on. And also after, so I've worn this for 2 winters, which is to say that ripping back isn't. And now my other neighbor plays her piano. Oh my goodness. I am sorry. So, and I'm distracted. Which is to say that ripping back is kind of hard after 2 years because it's, well, started to felt, and I don't know. I mean, I tried it on yesterday and I figured I would like for it to be smaller and much smaller, not just like 5 centimeters, but I would take out quite a bit. It doesn't have to be snug, but it doesn't have to be this wide. And it's, I mean, yes, it's oversized, it's its own style, but I don't love it if it's that big. Also, the arms have somehow become too long or grown, or sometimes also like a scarf that will stretch and become decidedly longer when you wear it because you pull it in one direction repeatedly. So maybe that's also what happened with the arms, so that with wear they just grew longer. But I always have to push the arms up, which is also something I don't enjoy. Well, but there is really no use in trying to take this out because I don't think the yarn is going to appreciate it all that much, and then I'm not going to appreciate the yarn anymore. So also this neck, what is that? Is that a boat neck? But I mean, it's this wide, and I took it in, so it was this wide, and it would always slide off one shoulder and then be sort of crooked. That made it very hard to wear under anything underneath that would fit that in terms of style, and also that would remain in place. I don't know, I wasn't thrilled. And then I sewed the opening a little bit to get like shut, and now it's this wide. That made it better, and I think you cannot see, especially with this yarn, but also generally you can't. It's a fun garment to wear. Let me put this on as well. I mean, because it doesn't make any sense me talking about it just in theory. There you go. I mean, maybe this isn't ideal for like underneath, but just to give you an idea, it is a delight to wear. It is so cozy, but this is my arms, so I'm gonna have to I have to fold it over, and they're still long. I mean, it's very warm, and it's a fun look. It doesn't matter. Well, you can't even tell anyways with that pattern, colorway. But I mean, look, it's very big. I wouldn't, this would have been good. This would have been more it, and then all of this could have gone. Well, and anyway, so that was, why am I talking about this? Because this sweater is so much tied to this one, to the Wool and Honey. Not just because of Andrea Mowry and because of the yarn, it's both Brooklyn Tweed, but also because they're both, not even knit at the same time, but like for me they belong together so much because with each of those something happened that kind of made me unhappy in the end. Or not unhappy, but that I doubted the garment, and whether it was right and whether it should remain like this. And now that I saw the Caddy Jacks episode, I figured, oh, okay, it's not about fixing this thing that is unfixable now. I mean, I can close the neckline further if I want to, but I would ruin the sweater and the yarn because it's been worn and it's not superwash yarn, so you cannot just take it out after 2 years of wear. I might, and maybe I should just wear this, and if I really don't want to wear it, give it to someone else. And yes, I mean, it still costs a lot of money, but it doesn't, I'm not getting that money back with that sweater just lying in my closet. So I'm trying to wear it, and if I really don't want to, I'm going to find someone who will adopt or even maybe buy the sweater. I don't know. And I can rather invest my time and energy in knitting another weekender and seeing how I get a different fit that I might like better, because that's what Jacqueline and I think also Caitlin what two of them have been doing. They just knit multiple weekenders and changed something, like the fit, the amount of positive ease that they gave their individual iterations, or the yarn. So one was knit in a summery yarn, which isn't something I would go for, but I mean, it's also like a fun variation, if you will. So I figured that's what I have to do. I just have to figure out what my next weekender is going to be and how I want to make that. Now that I say that, just in this very moment, I think I might have tweed yarn in my stash that I can use for that. Oh, that might be so fun. I might do that. Good that we talked about it, because now I've got a good idea. Anyway, so I'd rather plan my next sweater than, constantly and endlessly try to fix something that I know is really hard to fix, if not unfixable, without damaging it. So I need to shift away from, to refocus and not remain with this sweater, but with a future weekender. So once I have finished one or maybe two sweater projects that I have on the needles, so this one and I think my Christmas sweater is what I want to finish next, I may cast on another weekender if I feel like it, because so now this is on my mind. Now this is something that I want to do, because they gave me the idea and I thought, oh yeah, that's such a better focus, to focus forward on the next project and not, find fault with the one you've finished 3 years ago. So that's just what I wanted to add, because those two sweaters for me are so closely tied in that respect that I continue to find a little bit of fault with them, and now I decided to just trust them as they are and go for it, and not doubt the sweaters constantly, but just wear them or not, and then that's a decision, right? Okay, friends, thank you so much for hanging out with me, for allowing me to hang out with you. I hope I could keep you company, even if I cannot talk anymore. So that's a clear sign I should go and wrap it up for today. Do let me know if you feel like it, which sweaters you're working on, because for me it's sweater weather, and fall is, well, on September 1st, it's fall no matter the weather outdoors. So if you ask me, if you have sweaters on your needles that you're working on, or maybe like multiple weekenders, or I don't know, just a favorite sweater that you like to knit or reknit, or your favorite first sweater that you've ever cast on, or I don't know what, do let me know, because I feel very inspired to cast on sweaters, even if I'm not going to cast them on now. I'd rather finish one or two, but still I'm in a sweater weather kind of mindset. So I'd be super interested to know what you're working on garment wise, also otherwise, and I hope you can transition happily into the next season that's coming your way. And I hope to see you soon. If you're still here, thank you for hanging out with me, and feel free to like and subscribe below, or hop on over to my Ko-fi page, or to my Ravelry group and join that. And I'll be back here in, I don't know, about 2 weeks. Oh, I didn't tell you about the house now, but I'm gonna have to be real quick now. The thing is, we're getting the keys this coming weekend. Fingers crossed, if everything goes well, and I think and hope it will, but we hopefully will get the keys, and then we'll not be as much in limbo, but actually get to renovate and plan and do things. and also pack up the old apartment because that's going to be kind of my job. So more on that next time. Sorry, now I'm really in a rush, sort of, I feel like. But I'll talk to you soon. Happy knitting. Take care. Bye.